So for a lot of us who are Amy Sherman-Palladino fans, the idea that she has a new show that is hopefully like Gilmore Girls and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and Bunheads is a dream. And in comes Étoile, which I just finished watching last night. And what I'm going to talk about in this video is whether, if you loved those shows, you will also love Étoile. Because it is a little different, but it also has a lot of the same elements. So hopefully this will help you either decide whether to see it, or if you've seen it, think about the ways in which it relates to your favorite content. And the first thing to understand about Étoile, and this is a big departure from her other work except for Bunheads, is that this is completely an ensemble piece, right? So in Gilmore Girls you follow Lorelai and Rory, and especially in the first few seasons, it's all Lorelai and Rory. They will be with other people, but you're always, one of them is always in a scene. And with Mrs. Maisel, you're with Mitch, you're with Susie, and later on it starts to splinter a little bit, but for the most part, you're always with these people that you absolutely love. Étoile has, it's its first, I would say, that has 3 protagonists. So we have Kirby playing Jack, and he runs the Metropolitan Ballet. And then you have Charlotte Gainsbourg playing Geneviève, who runs the ballet back in Paris. And then you have Lou Delarche, and she plays Cheyenne, and she's the most amazing ballerina in the world, and literally. And they decide, because both Paris and New York are struggling with getting people to come and see the ballet, that they're going to trade dancers, and they're going to trade talent, not just dancers but choreographers. They're just going to do a trade and advertise this as a big event. And so Lou, who's from Paris, gets brought to New York. But that's 3, and they all have their stories, but then there's all these other people you follow who are the people who get traded. And so it's different. It's almost like hanging out in Stars Hollow, but with all the quirky characters, and every once in a while Lorelai and Rory stop by and they do their thing. So that's one thing to think about if you really enjoy that spread out, humorous, charming, beautiful. My God, the settings are so beautiful that this thing is in. Storytelling, then I think Étoile will make you really, really happy. If you're looking for just hanging out with your favorite gals all the time, it's probably going to be a little harder for you. But I really found it charming, and I really enjoyed the characters. So for me, it worked, and maybe it will for you too. The other thing to think about Étoile that I think will help you decide whether you want to watch this or not is that Étoile is not a dramedy. So Amy Sherman-Palladino has always done these incredible dramedies where, yes, you're laughing, but then you're crying, and then you're laughing, and then you're crying, right? She brings in deeply, deeply the 2 emotions. And Étoile is a comedy. It's branded as a comedy, it's called a comedy, and it is a comedy. So if you think about Gilmore Girls, in the pilot, by the time that it all ends, Lorelai's having that big fight with Emily in the kitchen, and all these things are coming out, and she's had the big fight with Rory, and there's all of these feelings, and they're so powerful and sweeping. And it's the same with Mrs. Maisel. She has figured out that her husband is going to leave her, and he's cheating on her. How could he possibly? This is just the pilot, right? And you're feeling all these feelings, and they're amazing and powerful and sweeping. That's not how Étoile operates. It's a lot lighter. The characters, of course, have their conflicts and they're working through things, and there's delightful, quirky family dynamics and love affairs. But at the end of the day, she's not working through that level of emotional gutting that her other shows do, which of course her other shows, they will gut you and then you'll be laughing soon. That back and forth is not there. You're gonna be laughing and the themes are there, but she's not working through the same depth of feeling. I deeply enjoyed it. It felt like an amazing world to go to at the end of the day, and it was just thrilling and fun, but it didn't ever do that to me. Which, depending on how you're feeling, it might be it's even maybe more comforting than Gilmore Girls, right? Because you're not gonna be put through that emotional ringer. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was fabulous. But if that piece is why you go to the shows, then maybe this show will be lacking for you in that respect. If you approach it though as, I'm going to enjoy this delightful, quirky, whimsical show that will make me laugh, then this is the show for you. One of the things that we all love so much about Amy Sherman-Palladino is the fact that she has these characters that she keeps bringing back. Characters as in types of characters, but also the people who play them. And you're in for a huge treat, especially if you love Gilmore Girls and if you love Mrs. Maisel, because she brings in the fan favorites. And our protagonist is Luke Kirby, who plays Jack, and he played Lenny Bruce in Mrs. Maisel, and he's very similar. This character is very similar to Lenny Bruce. He is charming, he's struggling, he's emotionally unavailable, but just so delightful, irresistible. And he's, the world keeps messing with him and complicating his existence, and he finds humor and sort of beauty in it all, or he's just like, and he's sexy and delicious. So if you liked Lenny Bruce, you are going to really like Jack, and he's our protagonist. So I think you will have fun with him. And then for the other Maisel fans, if you remember later on in the seasons, she had Susie brings in a new act, and it's this wacky magician named Alfie, who's played by Gideon Glick, and he's just a complete genius, but super hard to wrangle, and always bizarre and awkward, but just amazing to watch. We have Gideon Glick this time, and he's playing Tobias, and it's very much the same character, except that now he's a choreographer, this genius choreographer that gets sent to France from New York. And again, if you got a kick out of the antics of Alfie and his very internal, external, brilliant musings as he creates, you will love Tobias. And then for our Gilmore Girls fans, we have Yanic Truesdale is back, and he plays Raphael. He was, of course, Michelle in Gilmore Girls, and he, instead of being Lorelai's, always grumpy but delicious assistant, happens to now be Genevieve, Charlotte Gainsbourg's assistant in Paris. And it's basically the same role, same eye rolls, and put upon airs, and except that now it's in English and French. he goes between them, and one of the things that's very funny to me is that Yannick's accent is not as thick as Michelle's in English, but so the intonations that we're used to hearing in his English are not there necessarily for Michelle, but for Raphael, but they're very much in the French. You can just hear exactly the sound of Michel in the French. So enjoy him, and oh my God, who's Luke Kirby's mom? It's Kelly Bishop, our very own Emily Gilmore. She is back, and again, she doesn't have that level of, because the thing about Emily Gilmore is that she loves Lorelai so much. She doesn't know how to love her, but man, does she want to, right? And that's the push and pull that is so beautiful between those two. This, her name is Clara. Clara has the same wealth and clothes and, you know, the same kind of complicated relationship with her son, but she's not as vulnerable or as willing to go through it. But if you loved Emily Gilmore's sort of personality, where she's just always a little put upon and beyond everybody, and has such a wonderful disdain for everybody, you will love Clara. So there's a lot other characters that and actors that will be similar and reminiscent, but I wanted to bring out those four because to me they were the most delightful. And lastly, if you loved Gilmore Girls and Mrs. Maisel for their romance, and oh my God, is their romance powerful in those shows, you're gonna have to reset your thinking a little bit for Étoile, because there is plenty of romance in Étoile, but it's not between people so much, but between the characters and Ballet. So their love of their lives, the thing that consumes them, the thing that drives them is Ballet. And it's, it's looking at what it means to be so consumed by the passion of the art that you're engaging in. In that case, it's a lot more like Mrs. Maisel in that respect, right? She and Susie love their work so much, and it's the thing that drives them. But, Mitch is very, she's also driven by love, and there's the wonderful, you're trying to figure out, is she going to end up with Lenny Bruce? Is she going to end up with Joel? There's all of these things that are there, and that's so meaningful to her. And not to mention, Lorelai with Luke and Christopher, and Rory with Dean, and Jess and Logan, right? Like there's all of these things where these women, they might love the things that they're doing, they might love other things, but they're people that at their heart want to settle down with somebody. That's a huge thing that moves the characters in Maisel and Gilmore Girls, but that's not the case here. There's sex and there's kissing and there's like love triangles and all sorts of things are happening, but because we know that these characters are having a lot of relationships and that's their story, right? They're always moving around from one person to the other. We realize that these things usually happen as part of something amazing happened at the ballet or something very devastating happened with their work, and then they find love in each other that way. And I think that's a really interesting look at life, and she's, I think, portraying, Amy Sherman-Palladino was a dancer, so she knows what she's talking about really, really well. And if you can switch your expectations from love, from like looking for the love of your life to the cost of the love of your life being art, I think you're gonna love Étoile. So that's it, and thank you for listening, and please let me know what you thought of the show. Have you seen it? Have you not? Does this analysis, is it helpful? Is it not? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I can't wait to hear from you, and until then, don't stop loving the Amy Sherman-Palladino universe, because man, it's marvelous.